Tonight, Melbourne's roadmap out of restrictions. Daniel Andrews reveals his plan to get the state's economy back up and running, but some business owners aren't happy and others believe it will lead to more anti-lockdown protests. Plus, pressure mounts on the Premier to scrap the city's nighttime curfew as it's revealed that Victoria Police weren't consulted about it before it was introduced. Also tonight, tensions with China continued to heat up after 2 Australian journalists were evacuated from the country due to fears for their safety in what's fast becoming a tit-for-tat war. The world marks 19 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks in a very different way due to the ongoing pandemic. Jack Arnold join us live shortly with the details. And major changes set to come into effect at Channel 10 tomorrow after the network announced major redundancies in their news department. 6 News starts now. Good evening. Well, today was supposed to be the day that Melburnians exited Stage 4 restrictions, but instead Daniel Andrews has announced that Melbourne's Stage 4 lockdown will continue for another fortnight. It came as the Premier announced a roadmap out of restrictions, but some business owners argued that the state government hasn't done enough to support them throughout the pandemic. Lincoln Holmes has more.
Last Sunday, the news that hundreds were hoping for Victoria's roadmap out of its coronavirus crisis.
We need to do this in a steady and safe way.
The roadmap out reveals that there will be numbers of steps, Step 1, Step 2 and Step 3, then living with the coronavirus normal.
If we open up too fast, then we have a very high likelihood that we're not really opening up at all. We're just beginning a third wave.
The Premier also considered separating Geelong from regional Victoria and making it its own coronavirus hub.
There really is a risk creating bubbles in regional Victoria that just drive other people to move to those settings.
Regional Victoria's restrictions are set to be eased this week and slightly.
What I can't help but be struck by is that under the thresholds that have been set in that plan, Sydney would be under curfew now.
No, they wouldn't, because they've not had the community transmission we've had.
Some Victorians are saying it's better with the roadmap being released and that they can't wait for restrictions to be eased. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
The state government also detailed the easing of restrictions for those living in regional Victoria. From 11:59pm tonight, those living in regional and rural parts of the state will move into a slightly relaxed version of Stage 3 lockdown. Schools will start to return to in-person learning for all students, with some safety measures in place. Outdoor religious gatherings of up to 5 people and 1 faith leader will also be allowed. Regional Victorians will then be allowed to move into the next phase when it meets 2 conditions, that being a 14-day average of fewer than 5 new cases per day and 0 cases with an unknown source over a 14-day period. Daniel Andrews has defended Melbourne's nighttime curfew despite the Chief Commissioner revealing that Victoria Police weren't consulted about it beforehand. Liberal opposition leader Michael O'Brien said the policy was too restrictive and caused unnecessary problems. But Mr Andrews isn't backing down, saying he's not removing it because it works. The Premier said the curfew would change to 9pm soon in light of daylight savings coming into effect. To other news tonight, and it seems that relations with China are at an all-time low after 2 Australian journalists were evacuated from the country over serious fears for their safety. The ABC's Bill Birtles and the AFR's Michael Smith have both been rushed out of China after local authorities made several unannounced visits to their homes last week. The Financial Review says the reporters, who were the only remaining journalists in China working for Australian mainstream media, spent several days under protection in Australian diplomatic missions. The federal government has hit back, targeting several senior Chinese media officials in Australia and revoking the visas of 2 leading Chinese scholars in an unprecedented foreign interference investigation, provoking a furious response from the Chinese government. The world has marked 19 years since the 9/11 terrorist attacks in a very different way due to the ongoing pandemic. On September 11, 2001, 2,753 people were killed when 2 hijacked jets were intentionally crashed into New York's Twin Towers. At the Pentagon in Washington, 184 people were killed when another hijacked flight crashed into that building. And near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, 40 passengers and crew members above United Airlines Flight 93 died when the plane crashed into a field. It's believed that the hijackers crashed the plane in that location rather than their target after the passengers and crew attempted to retake control of the flight deck. Dozens of other people have also died in recent years due to medical conditions caused by smoke inhalation from the tower's collapse. Now let's bring in Chief Reporter Jack Hahn live for us in Sydney. Jack, because of coronavirus, Memorial certainly looked very different this year.
That's right, Leo. Things will look very different in 2020 given coronavirus restrictions, which are some of the toughest in the US, in New York City. Many people will have to adhere to social distancing guidelines if they attend the memorials. And what we do understand, there will be more pre-recorded messages, less speakers at the memorial, and the light show, however, that symbolises the Twin Towers by lighting up pillars in place of where the Twin Towers once stood. We do understand that will continue on. Governor Andrew Cuomo said that it is one of the most important parts of the memorial. There was discussions that the pillars would not be lit up into the sky due to social distancing guidelines, but those conversations have been squashed. We do understand that there's also a number of memorials, not only in New York, but of course right across the United States, and some too in Australia, to pay respect to those that lost their lives on that horrific day, Leo. And to really encapsulate that, I want to show you this vision from a WABC 7 reporter in New York. That's the ABC affiliate there in New York City. He was doing his piece to camera at the site of the Twin Towers when one of the towers came down. And I should warn you that this vision may be upsetting and disturbing to some viewers.
Take two. Take two and 2, 1. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the two towers. A huge explosion now, raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way!
Keep going, let's go!
That is really chilling, Leo. Now, that really encapsulates what happened on September 11. Thousands of people lost their lives, not only in the horrific events of the Twin Towers attack, but also the plane that flew into the Pentagon, and of course the flight that crashed in Pennsylvania. Our thoughts go out to the families that are affected by that, as the memorial, however, will continue on to pay respect, and many people in the United States hope that this might be able to unify the country in a time of deep division. Leo.
Alright, Jack, thank you. Changing pace now, and secret recordings have been revealed appearing to show US President Donald Trump admitting to downplaying the risks of coronavirus. In a series of recorded interviews with the Washington Post's Bob Woodward, Trump said of the virus, "This is deadly stuff," despite publicly dismissing the disease's threat to Americans.
It goes through air, Bob. That's always tougher than the touch. You just breathe the air, and that's how it's passed. It's also more deadly than your strenuous flus, so this is deadly stuff.
And this comes as America fast approaches 7 million infections, with the country now passing 190,000 coronavirus deaths. And there are plenty of other stories coming out of the US tonight, with major fires burning across the US West Coast. In California, a gender-revealed party is believed to be the cause of one of the fires. US correspondent Jackson Gosnell has the latest developments.
Leo, I'm reporting from home today, and I wanted to get you up to date on some of the latest things happening in the U.S. Wildfires are continuing across the state of California, and Oregon's 911 center has actually gone down in some places due to all these fires spreading into that area as well. President Trump has been nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize. A lot of critics say he does not deserve it, while many others say he does. And the coronavirus crisis continues. Case numbers are going down in some states while rising in others. Here where I am, we reported just over 200 cases today, one of the lowest numbers since the pandemic began in March. Now, the White House is hopeful that they will have a vaccine by the end of the year. However, some experts say that is not possible. We shall see what happens. I'll be sure to keep you updated. Reporting from home in the U.S. for 6 News, I'm Jackson Gosnell. Back to you.
Back home now, an Indigenous woman has died in custody after being held at Brisbane's Watch House. Authorities say that the 48-year-old woman had been remanded in custody on Monday and was awaiting a transfer to a correctional facility but was found dead in her cell. Police from the Ethical Standards Command are investigating. In a statement, the Queensland Police Service said cultural support was being provided. The matter is currently being overviewed by the State Coroner and the Crime and Corruption Commission. Tiger Air has officially collapsed after 13 years of operation. The budget airline cited the industry-wide downturn in travel as the reason for the decision. Their first flight took off in November 2007 and they've since provided air travel to more than 30 million people. Customers who have Tiger Air travel credits will now be able to use it on Virgin Australia flights. This has left Jetstar, owned by Qantas, as the only remaining low-cost airline in the country. We're going to take a quick break now. Coming up next on 6 News, we'll have the latest in entertainment as Channel 10 makes major changes to their news department, and a huge fire rocks Beirut more than a month after the deadly explosion that devastated the city. Stay with us.
2020 has been one of the biggest years in our lifetime. Calls for police reform across the country, a global pandemic that has changed the way we live, and the upcoming election that will shape America. As the U.S. gets ready to decide who will lead the country for the next 4 years, we'll keep you informed with all the latest developments in the race for the presidency. Special coverage and expert analysis only on 6 News.
That story went round on late Saturday afternoon. It was broken on that website 6 News.
He's only 12 years old, but already Leonardo Puglisi fronts his own news channel.
That is incredible. Absolutely inspiring.
Leo's fantastic. He's doing an amazing job. He's everywhere. He's breaking stories.
That's pretty impressive, Leo. Leave it there for now. We do. I might see him doing a bit more stuff on camera before too long.
Very good at what you do, young man.
What an amazing guy.
This is your studio here. It's a pretty sweet setup you've got.
We're following your story. We're rooting for you.
He will be the next Carl Stefanovic. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, lovely to see you. And go hard.
Welcome back. Major changes will officially come into effect at Channel 10 tomorrow following mass redundancies at the network. News production will be centralised, with the Brisbane and Perth bulletins to be presented in Sydney and the Adelaide bulletin to be done out of Melbourne. Well-known faces including Rebecca Morse, Tim Bailey and Mike Larkin will all leave the network. Studio 10 co-hosts including Joe Hildebrand and Kerry-Ann Kennelly and the show's newsreader Natasha Belling will also be leaving.
We all know that the show's getting a bit of a shake-up. Channel 10 and my lovely bosses asked me if I'd stay on in a new role. We talked about it really openly and warmly about what that might look like, and they were really keen. They were really lovely about it. So don't lash out at them. But I just thought. It's probably just better to draw a line under this amazing little story. I love you all very, very much, and I will still be seeing you, but it will be in other new and exciting ways. And I leave this show with just all the love in my heart and everything out on the field.
From tomorrow, the morning show will be fronted by Sarah Harris and Tristan McManus, with the news from Nerelda Jacobs and entertainment with Angela Bishop. A major fire has broken out in Beirut more than a month after the deadly explosion that devastated the city. Smoke was seen covering the capital and firefighters and ambulances rushing to the scene, with army helicopters soon taking part in efforts to extinguish the fire. Local TV stations reported that companies that have offices near the port were asking their employees to leave the area, with panicked residents calling loved ones to warn them of this new danger. Thankfully, it's believed this time no one was injured. An unprecedented warning has been sent to schools across the country after a graphic video circulated online. The Prime Minister was one of many who demanded that the horrifying video be removed, with the content widely circulating on social media. It's understood that the video first appeared on Facebook last month, with it soon being shared on other platforms, mainly TikTok. Even more concerning is the fact that the video has been inserted into other clips designed for children, suddenly appearing without warning. Some reports even indicate that the clip is being shown in the background of other videos, making it even more difficult for moderators to find it and remove it. And if you or anyone you know needs help, please contact Lifeline. They are available at 13 11 14. Beyond Blue is available at 140022 4636, and for our younger audience, Kids Helpline 1800 55 1800. Well, on a lighter note, let's check tomorrow's forecast right around the nation. Brisbane, sunny, 26 degrees. Sydney, 19. Canberra, also 19. Melbourne, 16. Adelaide, 18. Perth, 27. Darwin, a sunny top of 34. Townsville, heavy clouds, 28. Wollongong, 19. Ballarat, 14. Bendigo, 17. And in Hobart, 13 degrees. That is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date with all the latest news on our social pages at 6 News AU. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.